guys, welcome back to my channel. So this video is about how expensive is Oslo. So why I want to answer that's an interesting reason because when I moved to Norway we were living in Arendal, and then my husband got a job in Oslo and we had to move. So this was the one thing which kept coming on our mind: how expensive is Oslo. We all know this Oslo is one of the most expensive cities in the world. So you fear that how your cost of living is gonna change. If you are wondering too, and as I always say, हमें काफ़ी अच्छा लगता है और हमें काफ़ी तसल्ली मिलती है if we get to hear it from another human and from their own experience. So I am going to share my own experience, and I also want to cover one more point here, that in the current Europe crisis, how bad is it in Norway, on all these things which I will cover. And you are moving right now when there's a huge war going on and there is huge inflation, then you have to watch this video and subscribe to my channel, because I keep sharing my own experience to my viewers and I just want that information is useful for you. So the first very important thing, biggest expense which you have to bear if you don't own a house in Oslo is the rent, because you have to pay a very high rent. And yes, it is comparatively very high as compared to other places in Norway. So the rent is very high. So just to give you a range, if you're planning to live in like city in Oslo, like we live in a center in Oslo, so even a 1 BHK which can accommodate only 2 people. You have seen my house, it's a little cute house, but it cannot accommodate more than 2 people. हम भी काफ़ी मुश्किल से आते हैं. So yeah, but we wanted to live in center. So this kind of house will can cost you around 15,000. But if you also want to choose a house in Merstua or another places which are more closer to the center, then it's more and more expensive. So I'll give you a range which is around 15,000 NOK to 20,000 NOK for a 1 BHK. And if you are a family of 4, you have kids, obviously you cannot settle in a 1 BHK, so this cost will go higher. And that's why, guys, it is very much suggested that you actually buy a house in Oslo. And even we are trying to do that because it's a very high cost you have to give every month, and you're just letting that money go. But yes, the tough decision to buy a house, you can just not do it like this. So I know it will take time, but I would also suggest my viewers that just don't wait to maybe buy a 1 BHK, but buying a house is a wise decision, and people do that in Oslo rather than paying such a high rent. While rent is a huge cost, but one thing, when you're renting a house, you should consider that it should cover your Wi-Fi cost, which most of the houses abroad cover. So yes, that's there. Second, that you should also check that it has the heating involved, like it has a floor heating or it has another water heating system, and it's not electricity regulated, because then your electricity charges will shoot up, and which is a very high cost. So while you are even renting house, just check these things. How you rent a house, I just love Finn.no for anything in Norway, so that's our go-to place. My husband changed a lot of houses in Arendal. He always used Finn.no. This house I found through Finn.no. Also, if you're okay to stay outside of the city and you don't have to travel to office, and even if you have to travel, as I've told, the transport is fairly good. So if you can stay in little outskirts, and then you can find a house, a 1 BHK between 12 to 15,000 as well, a cheaper house, and a very good house but in a cheaper rate, and also a bigger house likewise. So that's another decision as a family you have to make, but that's possible. As I said, I'll also cover the current crisis. So current crisis has not affected the rent too much, because you already have signed agreements with your owners, which is there for a period minimum 11 months. So they are not going to change their contract in between because of the current situation. But I don't know, when we go and we try to renew the contract, if they ask for more money, and there is an impact of inflation there too. Second very important thing, because you have to live in a house, you need electricity, and in abroad, you need electricity for everything. So that's a cost which is there. So I want to tell you, the inflation has actually hit the electricity bills. We all know that it's everywhere on net, but I'll give you my exact figures so that you can relate. So normally your electricity bill, like our electricity bill for two people, it is around 500 or else 700. But in the current situation, even if the Norway government is paying the subsidy and helping the people, but still it is very high. Like it is 3 times higher, so we are getting a bill of 1800, and in which even government has paid 900 above that. So which you can imagine, so it's more than 3 times. It's actually very high. Inflation has really hit the electricity bill, but I hope this is going to pass, and this situation is for a very short time. But as of now, it is very high. The electricity bill is very high. That's why you have to be sure that in your rent your heating is covered, because in winters it's going to shoot up for you, and I'm telling you, it will be very high, and it will just disrupt your balance or budget. So just be careful about it. Otherwise, the normal range is 5 to 600. I don't think it was very different than a smaller town in terms of electricity bill. Okay, another important part which is there, which is the food. How much the grocery cost you? How much do you have to pay for that? So I would say it's not in Oslo. It's not actually expensive than Arendal or any other town in Norway, because it's the same. I would say actually you can even get cheaper rates for some of the Indian grocery items, which used to be very high in the other places. But because you have a lot of Indian grocery stores and there are a lot of options available, these prices will go down. But it's totally dependent on a family how much they spend. But for us, it's around 5,000 on grocery which we spend, and it can even vary to 7,000 if we are buying much more Indian things. And so it depends. Another thing I want to cover, that how inflation has hit the food cost. So yes, definitely you have seen the spike, because the food items, the price has gone up. Even your daily items, like some basic things like eggs, and the price has shown a little spike. So they say in the overall Europe the inflation is at 10%. I would say not that much in Norway, but definitely there's an impact. So if it was 5,000 for you earlier, 5,500 or 6,000 now, so there is a little impact. Another thing, because you have to commute, which is your transport cost, which I would say I've made a detailed video on transport pass and why Oslo transport is so good. If you haven't checked, do check it out. And transport cost, as I've covered there as well, if you are living in a zone 1 like we live in, so you will only have to bear 814 NOK for a monthly pass, and it will cover the entire transport cost for you. And actually you save a lot of petrol cost in Oslo, because in Oslo you have to consider there are tolls as well. As you move out of commune, you have to pay tolls as well. So that's why the people prefer to use public transport as well. So like we are saving now a lot of money in I would say petrol, but we are buying these monthly passes, and we are like our transportation is covered for the month. So I think that's very good in Oslo. So that's because petrol prices also, they are very high, so you are not relying on that anymore. And these monthly passes are actually, the rate is fixed for a long period, so it will not vary that much. And in the current scenario as well, it has no impact, because their pass rate is same. If your petrol prices are going up, if you have a monthly pass, you are still spending the same amount of money. And as I said, we have reduced our petrol cost a lot in Oslo, because sometimes we even forget we have a car, because आपको actually ज़रूरत ही नहीं है. If people say that yes, you want to have it for security, it's fine for long drives, but but you don't need it in the city for sure. And all the more वो एक trouble है guys. That's a trouble for you because you don't get parking space in Oslo. I'm telling you from my experience. So if you do, if and you know that cost you will definitely save because you will be so annoyed. And then parking cost is also everywhere. It's mostly you don't find a free parking, and then it's add up to your cost. So it's better, 100% better to use public transport in Oslo. Okay, so the next one on my list is hello. Yes, it's your telephone cost. So I'll tell you most if you're working the work companies in a company in Norway, it is mostly sponsored by your company. Like my husband has it from the company, and everything is covered by the company. The internet and everything is covered by the company, so we don't have to spend anything for his mobile. I have a very basic my call connection which is also very cheap. I only pay 200 NOK a month. I get a very good internet. And you all know I work from home, so I don't actually travel out. So most of the time my GBs are left. I'm not even using that internet, but yeah, in 200 NOK I can manage it. Okay, another thing I want to cover, apart from these basic things, which I was very curious to know, and maybe one of you is as well. So, which is what is the cost of eating out if you go out, and what if you order? So, I want to say that the cost of eating out is high because, as I told you, that your entire monthly grocery will come around 5 to 7,000. But if you're going out, like in our case, if we go out, we obviously have to order two dishes, which one dish would be around 2 to 300 NOK, and then we order two dishes because he's a non-vegetarian and I'm a pure vegetarian, so we can't eat like one. If it's not true in your case, that's better, you can manage in one dish. But still guys, you will end up spending more than 500 NOK for sure if you're eating out. And if you order the things like pizzas and burgers, they are still cheaper, but if you're ordering a full meal, it will be a higher cost. So yeah, so if you want to add that, so if you're trying to probably 2 times out, I'm just taking a rough figure, so let's say 2000 NOK you will spend in eating out, which is minimal, because I'm telling you, in Oslo you have so many options that you will end up eating a lot more. Okay, so I think I've covered mostly the basic cost of living things here in Oslo, and if you see, the sum will come, so I'll just give you a range basis the numbers I spoke, and if you see, this will be this sum. So this is this is not an exact amount, this is an approximate amount for a family of two, and it will be much more if you're a family of 4 or 5 or 6. So basically I want to say that Oslo is expensive, and there's a reason it is one of the expensive city in the world. And I would say it's always better if two of you are earning in Oslo, then no worry, you can manage savings and you can manage everything. But if one of you is earning, it can be a bit stressful for you in the beginning. And if you're buying a house, it's fine, you make an asset as well. I hope I was able to clarify it for you, and I actually gave some information which was new to you, and maybe not new to you, at least I have reconfirmed that to you. So that itself will make this video useful. So thank you guys, thank you for hearing me out, and see you soon.